Welcome. I'm Tania Aurora Whitecrow. I work as a shamanka, which is a Northern European term for a shamanic medicine woman. So today I'm here to offer a meditative tool. It's one that I do every morning. And the reason I'm sharing it is because I also run a podcast called Following Spirit Without Hesitation, Journeys from Deepening Trust. And I've been contemplating on that because all of my guests have a very different idea or a different feeling around what spirit is or maybe. And I'm writing a blog post about that, which I will link if it's below, if I've written it by the time I post this. So I'm thinking, that maybe I'm limiting the people who would be interested in being on my podcast by talking about following spirit. And maybe it should just be journeys of deepening trust. So while I've been contemplating that, I thought, well, this practice that I do, which is I also included in part of my Powering Up Within course, which is a self-study, self-led course. There's about 8.5 hours of different tools and that to support you with really building up a robust energy field. Okay. And this is one of the exercises. This is one of the shorter exercises. And what it is to really explore that balance of spirit within your body. So when we talk about spirit or God, we might have a conditioned view that there is sort of masculine, it's something other, it's something higher. And, when I open up the medicine wheel, we talk about above being the divine masculine, we talk about below being the divine feminine. And that's important. But then there's the center, the heart. And so this is what I call the central pillar. So the center of the heart is where the masculine and feminine meet. And the feminine is in the womb or the sort of the gut area. If you're a physical male in this lifetime, and the head is the masculine, not necessarily the ego, it's the consciousness. So there's an expanded, more open awareness there as well. So our intuition, our pineal glands in our head, so our intuitive senses, that, like I say, that expansiveness of consciousness, whereas in an unhealthy way, our ego can feel more restrictive. It limits us, which maybe supports our focus to get things done. But I'm not going to debate that. And then there's that more embodied intelligence, of our connection to the earth, of as women when we in our womb space, or and we all have that gut space where our microbiome is, which so closely reflects, the soil of the earth. So this tool, this exercise is simply to really kind of tune in and connect in with where that balance is, because it might not necessarily be in the heart. So what people talk about, following the heart, well, are you, and that's okay, because sometimes I'm much more in my feminine and I want to be creative and I don't want to be focusing, okay, and doing things. I want to be out and playing with the fairies, or doing something that for me is creative and connecting with the plants. And or some days, I want to be focused and I want to just get things done. And that's where my masculine comes in and supports that. But for me, it's always led from the feminine, where the feminine is sat, and how that energy is feeling within my body each day. And then looking at where the masculine is in relation to that and responsiveness to that. Okay. So that spirit, if you like, I suppose. And then the embodied intelligence of the, so they're very, very different. And then, you know, where is the heart within all of that? You know, my feminine energy is pretty much, for me, is pretty stable and like literally seated in that throne of the pelvis. And sometimes maybe she's more expanded, sometimes she's more sort of deep. Yeah. Sometimes she's more willing to kind of rise up to the heart, or even to the head, to sort of use some of those more masculine, I guess, intuitive, as we're considering that, because the intuition is both masculine and feminine in the same way that the heart is, but the masculine does tend to lead here, whereas that gut sense, that womb sense, is definitely led by the feminine. Okay, so like I say, it's a simple tool, but hopefully that's enough for you to understand and really connect with that in your body. So just taking some deep breaths. And the other thing I want to mention, if you're you know, in a masculine body at this moment in time, if you may have had experiences of being incarnated as a woman in another life. We've all been in a womb, so you know, don't dismiss that you haven't had womb experiences. So you can, if you want to, you know, connect into the womb space rather than the gut space, even though you might not have a physical womb in this lifetime. And the same with women who don't have wombs for whatever reason at this moment in time. You know, if you would rather do that, I'm not going to get into the dynamics. You know, there's obviously different functions there. So just really sense into that space. Or you may want to consider that as the sacral chakra as well. And that sense of that, just that feminine energy. Receptive. For me, it feels almost like this big orb, or this sort of cocoon. You know, when there's heat waves, it's like this big energy, big warm energy that just sits there. That's how it feels like to me. So just really connect in with that energy and where that is in your body. Is she really just sitting there within your pelvis? Is it nice and central? Or is she feeling pulled or pushed down? Or just no judgment, just really sense where she is. Is she feeling buoyant? Or is she just really in the deep? Okay. So once you get a sense of where she is and where she's sitting in your body, then open up to that masculine energy and feel how that masculine energy, I do sense the masculine energy coming down, but maybe it's around you. Sense how that masculine energy feels like as well. There is that sense of, you know, his own autonomy. It's not a slave to the feminine. So how he feels like responding and interacting with the feminine. Is he in that protective role? Is he just going to wait, you know, at that doorway into her space? Is he going to encourage her? Usually those are the responses I get. Sometimes he just wants to be in his own cave. That's quite a rare response for my masculine, but it does happen. So allow that masculine energy to just come in and find his place within that. And that's when you come to the heart. That's kind of where we start, because that's where they usually meet, but not always. But this is the place where we start. Where are they going to, where's their interaction, if there's any interaction today? Maybe it will drop down into the solar plexus. Maybe it will rise up higher through the throat. And for me, from this balance of this masculine and feminine, that's where I move from. Maybe, like I say, the feminine is more in that sort of creative space, or maybe she wants to rest. Maybe she's got a project she wants to get done. You know, how's he going to help her do it? So, you know, like any relationship, don't think it's always going to be, you know, straightforward. It's really interesting to feel into that dance of the masculine and the feminine within, and, you know, see where that trust is as well. And that really also helps explore your own, you know, dynamics internally, and how they may be some things unconscious about you that you didn't realize before in those relationships externally to yourself. But for me, the important thing is that when I find where I am within that balance of the dynamic between those two energies, so you could say the masculine spirit and the feminine is earth. Okay, and it's like, how are they meeting and interacting and coming together today? It doesn't mean to say that I can't make in the moment decisions. I've sometimes had, say, that how I feel that masculine energy, it just comes in and through and it just talks. If something comes up and it's like, no, I'm looking after this one, you know, in a moment. But generally it is finding where that balance is and moving from that place, and then responding as both energies in the moment to what arises. But for me, that's a really useful exercise. So it brings together that awareness of both of those energies, those that I guess are spirit, if you like, and that of the wisdom of the earth as well, and where that connection is between us. So I hope you find that useful. It's different for me. I find it's different every day, and I find that it's a really, really valuable tool, especially at this time, is when, you know, that we say, oh, we're bringing heaven to earth, you know. So if you can do that within yourself every morning, you're supporting the process. Okay, sending you much, much love from my heart to yours.